And he said the first word. Can I call her? She's so great. So we go around this room. See, being in the he said I've been going through some tough times physical. It's been a challenge. It's been something new to me. I've always been healthy and able to carry many tasks at one time. And so it's taken a real toll in how to readjust in. I am getting better. Not 100%, but better. I want to thank all of you for those who have been praying in your behalf. And it's really us. You can feel it when people broke through. And it's because of that I am having. So I'm grateful. Continue to pray for me. Sarah says I've got more years of productivity.
15 more years at minimum.
I look at Marcy, and I'm just a kid. So, Marcy, you're an inspiration to the older people that of you and your ability to help. Help means a lot. I've been asked to share a little of what, what is the heart behind what we are doing, what team I committed myself to originally. So I need to give a little background to that. I'll be sharing a few things of my prior experiences in business, not to boast about what I did, but it had a great bearing on being able to use what God has given us to help Davis birth this thing called CreatEd Rivendell in the past. So I'll share that a little bit. I was not out of school, not a Christian. My sole goal was to be a millionaire by age 30. I sought that. That was my passion. But along the way, there's a lot of stories in between that. But along the way, Gene found the Lord. And I was stubborn, arrogant, didn't think I needed God, wasn't against God, but I didn't think I needed Him. I had it all together. Things were working well, and I just didn't think about it much. And Jean had her amazing Damascus Road experience with the Lord. It took me 7 years. I was that stuff. It took me 7 years to watch her see life change. And at some point in there, I did find Jesus. And my life radically changed. I saw what God was doing in her life, which I didn't understand. And then all of a sudden, it just, boom, nope. And I saw the first time what it was doing and could do for me as well. So Norman, which we had a on a very small company to relatively large companies, 5 of them doing work all over the world. Loved it. But I drastically changed, and therefore normal changed, because the leader that began to bring Jesus, a whole bunch of stories involved in that and what we did. But it became like a church in a sense, to a lot of employees and a lot of vendors and things of that nature. Ended up selling Norman in 1990 to a large Swiss-based company. It was one of the largest multinational companies in the world. And Gene and I were fortunate at that time to walk away with immense wealth. And so that put my thought into what I do in retirement. As with all of us, we're able to justify just about anything, if we put it mind to. Some of it not good. So of course I started thinking about retirement. I started thinking about, I love boats. I was looking and getting down to the final choice of choosing about a 125-foot yacht that Gene and I were going to cruise the islands of the Caribbean. So that really became a passion of mine to be able to do that. And I think the Lord knew that. Before, one of the stories in this is when I actually found Jesus. I had started going to church occasionally. We began to meet the pastor and know him, and I did, and I just became friends. And I went on just occasions, special occasions. And I remember I was in the back of the church. I didn't want to get up front. I didn't know what would happen up there. But I was almost on the back row. And it's just like it's real today. I began to shake. Sweat violently. I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was, gosh, am I having a heart attack or what is this? But I had that impression that I needed to go and commit my life and my business to the Lord. So I sat there, and I'm telling you, sweating. I had a coat and towel, and I was pouring, shaking violently. And I leaned over to Gene. And I said, Gene, now I have to go down front. I have to accept Jesus. And she said, well, Bobby, just wait a little bit. That's the next order of service. I didn't know the right orders at that point. She said, well, that will be a time to do that. So I said, okay. So I sat down, I just was shaking more. And I leaned over again. I said, Gene, I'm here. I leaned over and said, Gene, I can't sit here any longer. I just can't. In the seat, she said, I remember the words, well, whatever. So I got up, walked down the aisle. Pastor was preaching at the pulpit. And I walked down there, and I just stood there right before him. And he looked at me and he said, Bobby, can I help you? And I said, well, you can. I want to commit my life, my business to the Lord. So, not knowing the order of things in churches or how it works, he stopped the service and I knelt and prayed. It was a great time with all people, but I began to take and taste firsthand, what it was to know Jesus personally. So I can relate to what Christian was saying very well. Ended up selling Norman after 30 years to the Swiss-based company I was sharing, Alumni Holding Limited, one of the biggest companies in Switzerland. And Gene and I were walking away with potentially immense wealth. That's when I began to look at yachts, justifying that. That's what I do next. Jesus was in that, you know how you justify things. And, but I got a call. I reported into England, who reported into Switzerland, my company. I was a good sized company, but it was a small fish in a big pond. And I remember receiving a phone call, and we got to know this gentleman very well. He was on our board, and he said, Bobby, are you sitting down? And I said, do I need to? And he said, yes, you do. So he began to share with me that the next day, Omni Holding Limited was filing for bankruptcy. Now, I'm sitting there with hundreds of people, families counting on me. I'm sitting there seeing 1 minute yachts and Caribbean, and the next minute I was looking, I may have nothing. Nothing. And so that was a long part of the journey. It took us months to walk through some of that. I remember when I went back and shared with Gene, and we prayed about it. And I remember calling, and I got the number of the administrator of the bankruptcy, who was in the Netherlands, because there were 70 banks worldwide. I mean, it was huge. And I felt the Lord tell me to call him. So I did. And I told him who I was, and it was one of the companies involved in that, and that I would like permission to sell Norman outside of it. And he said, Miss Norman, you can't do that. That's impossible. There's 70 banks, it's many thousands of people involved. We can't allow you to sell Norman. You're in the mix. See, my stock was held in Barclays Bank until the time the finalization was done. But, so I went back, and Gene and I prayed again that night. And I felt the impression, call him back. So I did. I called him back the next day. And I said, I forgot his name now, but I said, Mr. So-and-so, I feel an urge to call you back and ask you, can I sell Norman? And I heard a silence on the other end, very quiet. And he said, Mr. Norman, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I will give you 1 week to resell Norman. 1 week. And if you can't do it in 1 week, it won't be done. It's forgotten. So of course I came back, grateful for that, ended up going out and in 4 days resold Norman for a fraction at that time of what we originally had. Now I tell that story because that really set up this thing of what I do next. I wasn't on a 125-foot yacht with a chef and a captain and a steward and cruising the islands. I was with a little nest egg that she and I could live on, and so that was the place we were at that time, and that then led to the next steps of leading me. Now, what do we do? What's our next phase? I'm not taking that right, obviously. And so we ended up joining Davis at YWAM, Youth of Mission, in Kona, Hawaii. And I became the Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer there for 13 years. And that was a real changing time for me. I was able to meet with a lot of parents, a lot of young people, and ask them questions. And I was like most parents. I knew things weren't right in, the colleges and schools, but I had no idea the depth of it. It's from that that God began to put that burden of, I want something different. And I want you to do. So that is where we begin to see not only the educational system, but meeting all these precious young people. In my heart, I gained a passion to see them have another alternative than what's out there. Things have gotten much worse, as we know, since then. But I thought about this, and I said, wow, this is the fate of our nation. These young people, in a very short number of years, will be leading this country. And I said, something has got to happen. So that gave me the passion to join Davis to begin to develop this thing we called Rivendell, and now CreatEd. I thought this would be, I thought the walk would be easy. I thought to myself, gosh, if I can run a multi-million-dollar company doing work all over the world with 5 divisions and many, many employees, this will be a walk in the park. Be easy. Couldn't be harder. Whoa. Did I miss out one? We didn't know what was out there. We didn't know the state of how entrenched the enemy was into the field of education and young people, and how he would fight them. And it was through that we went down many paths. There were some right and not knowing, some were wrong. But we learned each time. And we thought we became better and better and better. We had a lot of events that happened, many, many stories in that. But I'll have to admit to you, this has been a very challenging, hard, and often painful journey. Hadn't been easy. Still not easy. But I know that we're heard from the Lord, and I want to be totally obedient to that. I remember at some point in that, I remember the Lord asked me a question. And this, I didn't hear an audible voice or anything, I just felt that impression that Are you willing? To give it all? To give it all? Give up everything for this dream? And I said, oh, I've done it. And he gave me the impression that, no, you haven't. You've got a nest egg. You've got plan B, maybe even plan C. And I thought, I want to know from you, are you willing to give it all? So I remember going there to Jean, and I shared with her what I think God had told me. And I thought maybe she would bail me out, you know, and come up with something. Well, we don't need to do that, you know. And, but, Jean, that's not the case. We prayed about it. We talked over it. And we agreed that, yes, we were willing to give it all. And so, at that decision, we took the nest egg that we had put aside for the, plan B, and we committed to put it into CreatEd at that time. Rivendell at the helm fostered this vision that that God had given. So it's been an amazing journey. It's, as I say, it's been difficult at times, but one thing I've learned that when you have enough resources, we had it all our life, you don't really know how to depend on God. You really don't. You don't, because we've got another alternative. And for the first time, with having nothing, I'm able to depend on Him and experience along the journey the little miracles that take place daily to make something happen when I can't make it happen. I mean, there was a day we could have funded many of these things, but so we walk this walk. I don't regret any of it. I just look at the fruit out there. Look at you. Look at these young people. It's worth it. Now, I'm not saying what Gene and I did is right for everybody. It's not. Don't go jumping out there and doing wild and crazy things. You've got to hear from the Lord. But I can tell you, the journey is different. But you're daily walking in God's presence and in faith. You know, I still struggle with that word, faith. You know, you can't have it until you have nothing. I hate to say that, but from my experience, for me, that was true. You have to experience that to where you're dependent on Him to do everything. And we've been joined by dear friends, investors, donors, and by God's grace, we are where we are. Has it all resolved itself? No. Do we have some ways to go? Absolutely we do. But I can tell you the joy of this thing when I look out there and look at you all and know your stories, know how it impacted you, how it changed you, it's worth everything. It's for Gene and I, it's worth it all. Now, why am I doing this? I think young people today are caught in an era of confusion, in a time when we need to help them get on the right path. There's so much coming at them today that we as parents can't even comprehend. We didn't have that. There's just so much, and they want to get there, and they need some help to do that. Just look what's going on. At least you hear the news. Look what's going on. Our institutions are crumbling. And it's because of the heart. That's why they're failing. Anything, the means justifies the end. And we're experiencing firsthand as it's coming forward. I think we have another way, a desire, and following Davis in this, to provide another way to educate. And we've got other ideas on that I think are far better than what's out there today as an alternative. And this is an alternative. There's really not been any alternatives to higher education. And we think God is birthing something that will do that. And I desire, and Gene does, to leave a legacy that will live on far beyond our days. That we can live out there and see, know that hundreds, maybe thousands of students, when they're in multiple locations, God willing, they could experience this journey. What you wrote, to see their lives changed. I know one thing of two quotes. Lenin, communist, he had a saying, give me one generation of youth and I'll change the world. Abraham Lincoln said, the philosophy of the classroom in one generation will be the philosophy of the government in the next. We'll have true religion. You are the future. And this world needs you desperately. And I want to close with reading something that I read once before, but it's very, very impactful to me. And it says, living for the right reasons. It's one's life does not but does not consist of the abundance of the things he possesses. That's in Luke 12. It is said that in 1923, 7 of the world's most successful men met in a Chicago hotel in 1923. The president of the largest independent steel company, the president of the largest utility company, the greatest wheat speculator, the president of the New York Stock Exchange, a member of the president's cabinet, the president of the Bank of International Settlements, and the president of the world's greatest monopoly. They made up They had more wealth with those men than did the federal government in the United States at that time. And this article says, fast forward that 25 years. Charles Schwab, president of the largest independent steel company, lived the last 5 years of his life on borrowed money and died a pauper. Arthur Cougar, the greatest wheat speculator, shot himself. Richard Whitney, president of the New York Stock Exchange, spent 3 years in prison. Adam Fall, a member of the president's cabinet, went to prison for bribery. Leon Frazier, president of the U.S. Bank of International Settlements, shot himself. Ivan Kruger, head of one of the world's largest monopolies, committed suicide. What this is saying, money brings neither security nor happiness. Yes, God will bless us, some of us, with money. That's in Deuteronomy. And He will do it for 2 reasons. One, because He delights in seeing His redeemed children walk in His blessings. That's in Psalm 36. Number 2, because He expects you to use your money to reach a hurting world with God's love. If these 2 things, if those 2 things, keep those in mind, you'll be living for the right reasons. Protect it. And you young people, you have to make that decision. Are you going to follow the Psalm? It may cost you everything, including your life. Is He worth it? Is it worth it? Gene and I can say, from my point of view, it's worth it. It's been a joy. And it's been a joy to follow my son in this vision. I'm grateful to lead. I'm grateful for what He's given us. I think with the time, He hasn't given up anything, just some material things. I'm thankful for the partners and friends and what they have done to sacrifice to see this happen. But I can truly say, when I look around this room and see the fruit and see what God is doing in your life now and what you will do in the future, it is all worth it. Great memories. So when I go to be with the Lord, at some point, I will have been greatly, greatly blessed. It wasn't going to happen for us on a 125-foot yacht. Thank you.
Just being a part of everybody's life here, it's just watching, just hearing stories and how much you guys have grown over the years. It's just, just hearing, just your stories. What this has meant is worth more than any paycheck I could ever get. It's worth everything. And that's what it's all about to me. You guys have heard a lot, and so we just want to give a big picture, a snapshot of where I feel the Lord is leading us in the future. I've always, I guess it's been many, many, many years now, that I've always felt there's a more optimal way to do this. Looking at the current situation, even a college campus situation, where I always struggled with is, for example, when class was finished, everybody dispersed. And the only way you could bring people back together is if you schedule it. And that's where you always felt some of the resistance, when always things being scheduled to get back together. And I always felt the most optimal way to do the program that just really fit the DNA was what I call a house model. And I always had a dream that I'd have a very, very large house, I can give an image like a bed and breakfast, where we all are under, like I said, one roof, a house. But why I wanted it so bad was because I wanted to live in the house, and I wanted to share life with the students. And where I struggled most, especially as much as I love it here, and it just means just a fabulous place, I guess the biggest struggle for me is I live 20 minutes away. And I'm not able to interact as much as I want with the students. And so when I got into this, that's what it was all about for me, to just be able to share and live life with the students and not be so apart from it. So we've had experiences over the years, and it's what I call a self-contained space. And it's where a place to sleep, a place you can have class, a place we can eat together, cook together, and share life together. We experienced it in a couple places, one being Italy. And for those that went to Italy, you get a picture in your head like a self-contained space. It was just a beautiful old 14th century monastery that was redone in the hills of Tuscany, overlooking the city of Florence. So the place and space mattered. It was a beautiful place, but it was self-contained. In other words, we could always go out, even go out as individuals, but the place brought you back together. I didn't have to schedule people coming back together. And not only that, the most memorable time for me is I was in the place too. And that's what I enjoyed most. The other times is for C1 and C2, because we had to be out of this place for 1 month every summer, because they rented the whole facility out, is we always got a cabin on the lake, a house on the lake. And so we were able to spend an entire module at the lake together. And it was just, my wife was there, she was part of it, my son was there. Again, it's the cooking together, the eating together, the having class in the living room together, this informal setting. The conversations were better. And it was always, we were available. Charity and I, we did this, and Annie and I, we were available. And when the students were ready to talk, we were there. And I didn't have to look at a calendar, when are you available, when am I available? We were just present. And because of that, we were able to just share life, and hopefully it meant a lot to them as well, that we were there and part of their life. So I've always had this vision, I've always had this for many years now, and I always felt the most optimal way to travel through this program would be a house model. A large, beautiful home where the faculty can live there with the students. So with that, I don't know, Mom, do we anything else to? We happen to find perhaps a beautiful place here nearby in this area, and we wanted to show a video. Is that right? I don't know how much you want me to share. Show a video of this house. Beautiful setting, 13,000 square foot house. We're believing in faith, but we just wanted to, here's a video of the home that we're looking at. It was modeled after, it's actually a new house, but it was modeled after an 18th century plantation home in Louisiana. So it looks very historic, but it's new, so we get the best of both worlds. So And here's a video that just kind of a picture of what we've always kind of wanted to do.
So I want to give you the story behind it because it's a God story. And it's a walk of faith. And I don't know how much you perceive this, but you've already been invited into the story. You know, God has brought you into the story from way back when. And so we know that Davis has had this dream in his heart, and it certainly bears witness in ours that this would be a wonderful way to facilitate this program. So shortly after we got down here, we began to search, all over the internet. We've been all over the state of North Carolina. And it's really hard to find a big home that's zoned right. I mean, there's 1,000 roadblocks. So in the course of our search, Davis happened to be somewhere, I don't remember where, but he opened a magazine and he saw that house. And we were out looking at another house, and he said, look at this one. So I thought it was beautiful, and I called the realtor and told her to please go look at it and find out. So she called me back the next day, and she said, I am so sorry to tell you this, but that house has just gone under contract. And so we thought, well, that's that. However, at that moment, I said, God, if that's the house that you want us to pursue, if that's the house that you want us to have, then please bring it back on the market. I don't wish anybody any ill will. I hope who's ever looking to buy that, I hope, that it's a good reason they wouldn't. But I'm asking you, Lord, I claim that house.
Name of the Lord.
And I completely forgot the prayer. I prayed and I left it in God's hands. And so 6 months we're still looking, still searching, still researching. And I was just sitting in the bed on the computer doing all of this, and this thought just dropped into my mind. I wonder whatever happened to that house. Did it sell? So I went on there and I looked it up, and there it was, back on the market. So I called the realtor and we went out the next day, and I walked through that house and around those grounds, and the scripture that kept coming to my mind, where the Bible says that He is able to do far, far more abundantly, beyond anything we could even think to ask Him for. I wouldn't have thought to ask God for that, frankly. But what I want to tell you is we're in a walk of faith. The house we've been able to take off the market while we're doing the due diligence. But there's a lot of obstacles that we need to overcome. So we're asking you to just join with us in prayer. Let's pray and let's believe that if this is the will of the Lord, that He will make a way each step that we take. And I want to tell you one other piece, and that is Jim Monti gave the board a wonderful book called Draw the Circle. Some of you have read it. It's a marvelous book on persevering prayer, the prayer of faith, not giving up. And when I was reading that book, it said, persevere in prayer, but you need to take action. Your prayers need to have feet to it. And so the example was, if you're looking for your dream job, go buy a tie, go buy a suit, go buy something as a step of faith. And if you're looking for a home, go buy a piece of furniture. And when I read that, it just instantly in my spirit, I just felt the quickening of the Lord. And into my spirit dropped a picture of a buffet server. And God gave me the price, $500. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I started my search. And the day, I think before this house came back on the market, I found what I was looking for. And I went to check out, and the price was $600 and something. And I thought, oh, maybe that's not what I'm looking for. But then this little thing popped up on the screen, and it said, maybe you would qualify for a business discount. So I plugged in the business discount, and I checked out again, and it came to $504. Now, for you students that are here currently, every time you walk into that big classroom, you see that server out there? That's my faith furniture. And we bought it together. And so every time you go by there, you just touch that furniture, in Jesus' name. Because what was in my heart that day is the Lord saying, I want that to go into the home. And I'm going to write the story because in my heart, God was saying, I want the generations to know. I want the young people to know that there's a God in heaven that answers prayer. So please join us in this walk of faith. And all we've ever wanted was God's will. That's all we've ever wanted. But if this is the will of the Lord, then I want to fight for it. Does that make sense? So that's our story, and that's where we are. All right?
Yeah, so that's kind of the future as far as this could be a template, and if it works, then if we are blessed where we can spread, it will come maybe spreading through the buying and purchasing of homes and grow that way. And where students and faculty can live under a roof together, share life together, and go through this program together. So that's kind of the big picture of the future, what we'd like to go. And what's that?
Sheridan has 18 additional acres.
Yeah, it's got 19 acres on top of the house. So, and I just want to say a quick thanks to Nick and Emily who are here tonight. They're a big part of making this happen. I'm not sure what undertaker could even undertake it without them. Huge part of this, just their wealth of experience in real estate and development. So they've been a big part of this. So thank you guys. So I think that's where we're going in the future. I think so hopefully that sounds fun.
Thank you, Davis.
I'm sure I'm supposed to follow that. But all of you have heard my name multiple times at this point. I feel like this weekend. But my name is Alumni. I was part of R1. And I was one of the original guinea pigs who took that leap. And it really did change my life. So I was with Laura at Summit Semester when Davis and AJ came to give their pitch about Rivendell Sanctuary. And I was at Semester because I didn't want the traditional college. I was homeschooled all the way, and I just knew I didn't want to go into a system that was going to destroy what my parents had given me. And I was looking, I had a full ride, I had an 80% scholarship, and I had another full ride that I just needed to apply for. And my parents were like, oh, this is good, we got options, and you're good to go, these are good schools. And every visit we went, I was just like, this is not right, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And Davis and AJ came and they gave their pitch about a different kind of college that would teach you not just facts and information, and this fits here and this fits there, but really how all those facts and information fit into God's design for us as human beings and for our world. And I heard that and it just clicked. I was like, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want, this is what I need, because this is going to show me who I am, what I was made for, and how I can then take me and what God has given me and give it back to His kingdom and to His world. And I called my parents at 11:30. They were on a camping trip, and amazingly they got cell service. So I called them and I said, hey, I found the school I'm going to. It's somewhere in Minnesota, and there's no scholarship, and I'm going. And they were kind of like, can we talk about this? And I said, no, it's decided. So I dragged them to Minnesota in 3 feet of snow. what did we got there? I think it was like 10 degrees, maybe, if that. And I walked in the doors and I met Bobby and Jean, and my parents saw me standing there and between them, and they said, okay, this is where you're supposed to be, because we can trust these two to take care of you when we're not here. And that was day one of Rivendell, and I cannot begin to describe what Rivendell Sanctuary means to me. It really made me who I am. I knew from day one that what I believed was true. I didn't know why it was true. I didn't know why it made sense. I didn't know why, why is what I believe and what I think good? Why is it reasonable? Why does it matter? And module by module, week by week, I began to see those pieces fall in place. This is who God is, and this is what His world is, and this is how we are, and this is how we're to live. And one by one, those pieces fell into place, and it was just slowly building a foundation for my faith that I had not had before. And I walked out of there not knowing all the answers. We had lots of unfinished discussions, as you all know. But I walked out of there rock solid, knowing somewhere there was an answer. And if ever I had a question, I knew, if nothing else, I could call Davis. And he would call Pete, and we would figure it out. But I was able to walk away from there and go to William and Mary and major in philosophy and sit in class after class that was designed to destroy my faith and not be afraid. And know, okay, yeah, that's a fair point, and that's a good thing that we need to figure out, but I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not going to give up. Like, I will find an answer, I will figure out how this works. And just really able to walk through that unshaken, knowing that there's a reason for what I believe, and it's true, and it's good, and just really, it gave me a confidence to sort of walk into college, open hands, not knowing what in the world was coming next. I left Rivendell not really knowing what I wanted to do, and not really knowing what my calling was. Davis and Miss Jean and Matt Harbour, who was one of my faculty, all told me that God had given me the gift of being a teacher, and I'm like, ha, you're crazy. I said, that is not anything like what I want to do. And over the years after Rivendell, I have seen more and more that God has given me that passion, and I have sort of taken over a few classes in C2 since then, and they seem to like it. So, I just see that God prepared me for a role that I didn't even want at Rivendell, and I didn't think I would ever fit into that, and He has taken me a lot of places that I thought I would never fit. As of Tuesday, I am officially a CPA. I work for KPMG, and I was never a numbers person. Like, I survived algebra, and I was like, all right, never again. And God's like, no, I'm gonna make you an accountant. And I was like, okay. And just like ever since then, ever since Rivendell, God has had His hand on my life in a way that is very hard to describe, just taking me step by step by step, and He has eventually brought me back to the board and to being involved in the classes, and I guess just sort of bringing it full circle of, okay, I brought you here to prepare you, and I really didn't want to leave. Like, I had an all-out, knock-down, drag-out fight with my parents about leaving Rivendell. I wanted to stay on as an intern and keep going, and God said, no, I've got a plan for you. I'm going to take you out, and I'm going to equip you, and I'm going to show you some things. And then eventually, He didn't tell me this at the time, but eventually I'm going to bring you get back, and you're gonna see how I've prepared you. And I could have never imagined walking out after graduation that I would be back here on the board as a CPA of all things. Being able to give back. And it just really goes with what you said, Bobby. Like, I never wanted the salary of a public accountant and that corporate life. And I walk through my office and all these people who are fighting for money and career and position, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. But I see now that God has brought me to a place of being able to give back and being in a position of influence and being in a position that this isn't yours. This is mine. This is my certification that I have given you. This is my resources that I have given you. And I have put you in a place that I want you to now give back to me. And it took me 6 to 7 years to come back to that place and find that. But I just want to thank you guys really for being that first step of God taking me to a place and a career and a position that I would have never even dreamed of. And I've given it to me, and I absolutely love it. And this place is my passion, this place is my heart, and I'm just so excited to see where God takes it next. And just so excited to see all of these faces out here who have been through it and who have seen that and have been a part of it. And just want to thank you guys so much, and I'm so excited.
I messed that up for like 4 different people. Well, praise the Lord. What an amazing opportunity this is, just to be able to get up and talk. I already talk way too much anyway, so when people ask me to talk, I'm like, sweet, I get an excuse. And so when Jean asked me if I would share anything, I was struggling and trying to think of something. But the big thing is that I grew up on a ranch and was heavily influenced by farming culture. And this place is an agricultural wonder. It's a place where you guys plant seeds and we get to see them grow. This is the oldest job in the world. There's the joke that's wrong, but the literal oldest job in the world is farming. And we have got to plant seeds. I was a part of R4, and then I was a staff member as well. I got to teach class with R7 with Davis. And man, we had some good times and some crazy times. But to go through a program like this, I wanted to be an Olympic wrestler. Like, that was everything. And then one practice took that away from me. And I went on to then think like, okay, what am I gonna do? Well, I ran into the same people at Summit Semester, AJ. So it's a very similar story to some of us. And it was actually Abby. Abby went to Summit Semester and then went to Rivendell, and I was like, oh, well, I want to do both. And so AJ's like, shoved me in front of Abby and was like, here, talk to her. And she's such a rock star that I was convinced, okay, I want to do both of these. All of my dreams have disappeared, so what am I going to do? I'm going to wrestle with God. And sure enough, for the next 3 years, I wrestled with him through the most insane, arduous program that at times was difficult, as you all know, and at times I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to go to sleep, but assignments were due, and it's so amazing then to leave. They asked me to share, like, okay, what are some of the things that you've done since Rivendell? And I really haven't done a whole lot. I got a piece of paper from another college that cost me about $40,000. And I got a career that I'm not gonna stay with very long because I wanna go back and spend more money for another piece of paper. But God can do so much with planted seeds. And in my own life, he was able to plant so many seeds and then use them in miraculous ways. One way you can define a miracle, and when you're talking about it, is there's only so many times the phrase "just so happened" can fit into a conversation before you have to realize that there's something else happening. And so it just so happened, I don't know if this young man remembers me, but it just so happened that after I graduated, I went out to YWAM Maui because Joey and Abby convinced me to come out and help teach a college course. And then in my summit semester class, there was a Vinca he ended up sleeping in my room on the floor half the time because we just became fast friends. So I was like, I'm gonna go visit a Vinca while I'm out in Hawaii because there's only so much opportunity. And while I'm at your house, your mom pulls me aside and she says, do you know what this CreatEd thing is? And I was like, well, it just so happens I do. I not only went there, I worked there, and am pretty intimate with the knowledge of the program. I've been through it twice, so I think I at least have. Nowhere near Pete level, obviously. That's a whole different subject, but I at least feel like I can kind of explain it now. And so I had like an hour-long conversation with your mother about the program and whether or not she was even willing to send you out to the literal opposite side of the world from Hawaii to this place. And I actually, at the time, was like, this doesn't make sense to send your son here. Like, that's the beauty of the work of the Lord. Like, none of this makes sense. This program doesn't offer you anything on paper. Like, oh yeah, this college has only been here for a few years. It's changed states a few times. It's done all these crazy things. So it doesn't make sense, but that's not how the Lord works. What's wise to men is not what's wisdom to God. And what's foolish to men just is where the Lord thrives. And so it's like, we're having a conversation with Mrs. Vika, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. He's not gonna leave this program with this great resume in a sense, but he's gonna leave it with so much experience that it's not gonna matter. Because a resume is one way to get yourself into a door, but your ability is what keeps you in the door. And so, more than anything else, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to share is that the Lord, I didn't do any of this. I just happened to be in Hawaii and taught for a little bit. But the young man that spoke first is a fruit of the Lord's work in a place like this. And if you want to look around and see the other fruit, all you have to do is just turn your head and just gaze in the glory that God has been able to produce in all of our lives. And you can go through the program and come out really regretting, like, man, I wish I would have done more. And that's such a common thing that I've heard, that as you realize, like, that's just fruit of all the work that you've done coming to fruition, that now you're able to go out into the rest of your life and continue to grow. And so, yes, we're planting seeds. And right now, you students are not going to see those seeds come to fruition, and for a good bit. But take our word for it. Hit all of these alumni up and say, like, hey, was it worth it? You're going to hear the same answer every time. And what an amazing blessing you all have been to all of us. And so thank you guys both so much, Bobby and Jean and Davis and some of the other giants that aren't here tonight. Matt Harbour was instrumental for a lot of us, and Robert and Bev, man, what rock stars. And there's so many other people who have been so instrumental in all of our success. And gosh, I've been so blessed by my class as well, that it's amazing just to be able to be here and share this and see what it's done, and to see the work that God's going to continue doing on all the fruit that's going to be produced. Weird fruit that is super strange, but that's how the Lord works, and what a blessing it is to be a part of that. So thank you.
I've cried 4 times tonight because it is amazing. Sorry. I didn't want to do this. Rivendell has changed my life, and not because it's a community, not just because it's a school, but because of Jesus. Jesus is amazing. And he has done so much for us, all of us. And I don't want to make this about me or anything. This is totally on the whim. But I just want to remind everyone to be so thankful for everybody in this room. Bobby and Jean and Davis, everybody knows them. But there's so many more people who are part of this community and part of this school that's here. We all forget. I'm only 20, and growing up, we all have this idea, like, we need to do this by ourselves. I need to succeed. I need to be this amazing person by myself. I need to brand myself on social media. But it takes so many people to create something amazing. And even God is an example of this because he is the Trinity. And that's one thing that we learned in Rivendell and CreatEd. God is a community. We need to be together and we need to grow and thrive together. And there's so much that I'd love to talk about, but I want to keep it short. Talk to me afterwards if you want to, but I want you guys to be thankful for this community and for the people around you and for all of their gifts. Everybody has a gift and a talent and a purpose. And I just want to remind you. So, thanks.
Just a few thoughts as how you can partake in this journey. It's a bit too early, but this is a time for us to share what the next steps could be. So we are in the middle of what's called the due diligence process. And that's why Davis referred to Nick and Emily with real estate experience. They are helping us to discover the big stones, the green flags, the red flags, identify them so we know exactly how to do it. We're probably halfway through that process. So it's going well. We don't see any red blocks right now that would prevent this, but it's in process. We have to do the hard work behind the scene to make sure everything fits from every aspect. Once all of that gets closer, then we want to invite you as well as past students, current students. I'm not talking about inviting you to provide big dollars. Maybe some of you will donate a little bit here and there, but where you can play a factor is all of us know people all over the country, friends, family, people that still care about our country, that care about our towns, our communities, that care about the coming generation, and that care about truth, love, and Jesus Christ. So we believe there's a model here that can have a ripple effect from North Carolina to other communities. And this is the prototype that will make it visible for other communities. So God has been working, like John said earlier, like a farmer. He's been working the field and has taken 11, 12 cohorts to get to the point that we now can see a model that can spread around the country without being shackled by the system. But it's freedom, there's opportunity, there's truth, all those things that has been cultivated in our DNA and our vision. So when the time is right, we will send out some information to all of you. And where you can make a difference is share the story. Share some videos that will provide you with friends and others, where those that maybe have the means, they can see, oh, here's an opportunity to actually leave a legacy. And you can be the voice of an evangelist to spread a message.